The 5th anniversary dawned with the pale, hopeful light of early morning. Grace had laid the table with care, the silver gleaming, the china arranged just so beside her. Chloe fidgeted in her chair, small fingers tracing patterns on the cloth. They waited. 18 hours slipped by, each one heavy and slow. The sun climbed, blazed and faded. The candles Grace had set out remained unlit by 2 in the morning. The food had long gone cold, and hope had curdled into something brittle and thin. Then Arthur arrived, not with apologies etched in his eyes, but with the weary air of a man returning from some distant, more agreeable world. He placed 2 objects on the table. A toy car, one wheel missing, and a necklace that caught the dim light with a hard, expensive glitter. "I'm sorry," he said, the words hollow, rehearsed. "I was buying these for you." Grace's hands trembled as she picked up the necklace there, engraved along the clasp. A name that wasn't hers. She threw it back toward him, the chain slithering across the wood like something venomous. 8 million, she said, her voice low and shaking. "For this? A used necklace and a broken toy." Arthur lit a cigarette, the flame flaring briefly in the gloom. He exhaled smoke like a sigh. "She's younger than you," he said, as though stating a simple, regrettable fact. "Kinder, and she's given me a son. My business, it needs an heir. She's made sacrifices. This is the least I can do." He looked at her then, and his gaze was not unkind, only distant. "They won't replace you or Chloe." But Grace was already moving, already pulling her daughter close in her mind. Borders were being drawn, papers signed, a life packed neatly away. Later, as they prepared to leave, Chloe's small voice broke the silence. "Mom, has Dad called?" Grace forced a smile, her hand gentle on her daughter's hair. "No, sweetheart, he must be busy with work." She did not say that busy men do not forget the weight of 18 hours or that some gifts are not gifts at all. But goodbyes. Chloe shook her head firmly. "I haven't seen Dad for almost half a year. I want to wait for him." Grace, stifling her heartache, dialed Arthur's number for the 100th time. A figure rushed towards Grace and Chloe. "It was Arthur. I'm sorry I was delayed because I was buying presents for you." Grace recalled the 8 million debit record received at noon and felt a slight lessening of her anger. Grace looked at the bag he was carrying, curious what kind of gift would cost 8 million in 18 hours to buy. When he pulled out the diamond necklace, and toy car from the bag, Grace was stunned. On the way home, no matter what he said, Grace remained silent. After carrying a sleeping Chloe back to her room, Grace walked to the living room. "Grace, who are you giving that look to all the way home? Did I buy you gifts and I made a mistake?" Arthur sat on the couch, legs crossed, looking at Grace with a displeased expression. Grace was so angry that Grace laughed, instead tossing the necklace and toy car in front of him. "What kind of gift is this?" "An old necklace engraved with someone else's name and a boy's toy car with a missing tail." "Fine. Is this how you treat Grace and Chloe? Who is Scarlett, whose name is engraved on the necklace?" Arthur's face suddenly changed and he said stiffly, "Just a store clerk. She helped recommend it when I was buying the necklace. She probably engraved her name by mistake. I didn't notice it was the wrong one." "Wrong one?" Grace scoffed, her laugh full of ridicule. "Arthur, you're still lying even now. Who is that person? Do you really think I can't find out?" Arthur frowned deeply, stood up irritably and paced back and forth in the living room. "Since things are already like this, why do you keep dwelling on it? She's younger, prettier and more understanding. Most importantly, she gave me a son." Eleanor was so anxious for her grandson. She almost got depression. "Besides, my vast family business needs a son to inherit it. I can't give her a proper title, so compensating her with money is only reasonable. After all, she's made sacrifices by being with me. She's made sacrifices." Grace's eyes welled with tears, her voice trembling. "What about me? Grace and Chloe waited 18 hours for you to have a meal together, starving. What were you doing? You were busy spending 8 million on someone else." Arthur stopped, his brows tightly furrowed, seemingly impatient with Grace's questions. 8 million, 8 million. When did you become so materialistic? If you called give birth to a son, I'd give you 8 million too, but can you give birth to one? Grace looked at him in disbelief, stepping forward to pull his hand and place it on the scars on Grace's belly. He recoiled as if seeing a monster. Grace couldn't help but scoff. "I indeed can't give birth. Don't you know why?" Grace remembered it was their 3rd year of marriage. Grace and Arthur were in a car accident. Grace was impaled through the abdomen by an iron rod while saving him, losing the 9-month-old child in Grace's womb and Grace's uterus. To comfort Grace, Arthur said that having Chloe was enough for him in this life. But now, before could recover, Arthur's phone suddenly rang. He immediately turned his back to answer, his voice very low. "Hello? What?" "Leo has a fever." "How high?" "Don't be afraid, I'll be right there." He hung up the phone and immediately walked towards the door. "The company system crashed. I have to go. I won't be back tonight." He spoke quickly, his tone casual, without a hint of guilt. Grace looked at him, her throat tight, unable to speak. He frowned and said, "Don't look at me like that. Rest assured, they will never affect her." In Chloe's status, the door slammed shut. The house was deadly silent. "Mom, I feel a little unwell." Chloe had come downstairs at some point. Her little face crumpled. Grace hurried to pick her up. Chloe's forehead was burning hot like a small furnace. Her small face grew even paler from discomfort, and her lips trembled slightly. Unable to find a taxi late at night, Grace hastily called Arthur. His impatient voice quickly came from the other end of the phone call. "What now?" "I'm busy here. Chloe is sick. Her high fever won't break, and I can't get a taxi outside. Can you come back and take Grace and Chloe to the hospital?" Grace suppressed her anger, trying to make her tone sound calm. A moment of silence passed on the other end of the phone call. Then he said coldly, "I can't leave here. You figure something out yourself. Besides, it's just a fever. Just bundle the child up and she'll be fine. Why go to the hospital?" Grace had no choice but to ride a rideshare bike, taking the child and rushing to the hospital in a panic. "Your child has scarlet fever. Doctor, is it serious?" Grace's voice trembled, almost inaudible. Chloe's scorching face rested weakly against Grace's neck. "Scarlet fever is highly contagious, and especially dangerous for children. The situation is urgent. The child is young, has a persistent high fever and symptoms of pharyngitis. She must be vaccinated immediately." The doctor's tone was grievous. He scribbled on the medical chart. "Fortunately, our hospital has one last vaccine left. Go pay the deposit and complete the admission and we'll give her the shot immediately." The nurse quickly placed Chloe on a gurney and sent her to the isolation ward. Grace hurried to the billing counter, pulling out Grace and Arthur's joint bank card, their primary card for daily household expenses. "Sorry, this card can't be processed." "How is that possible? There are hundreds of thousands inside. Why can't it be processed?" Grace was frantic, thinking it was a system error. "Ma'am, the system shows this card has been frozen. Please see the cashier." Turned the screen towards Grace. On the screen, the 4 words "frozen for payment" stabbed Grace's eyes. "Frozen Arthur." He froze Grace and Arthur's joint account in the way to the hospital with Chloe that night. Grace suppressed her fury, digging her hands desperately into the counter to keep herself from collapsing. Her fingernails were almost breaking, the pain jolting Grace to a moment of clarity. Grace had another card. Grace's hand trembling, Grace rummaged through her wallet for another backup card which had a balance of 100,000. "It was my brother's keepsake left for." Grace swiped this one. Grace shoved the card across, her voice terribly hoarse. The doctor was about to give Chloe the eye injection. No, it was Arthur. He also brought a woman and a boy. Presumably she was the name engraved on the necklace. Scarlet. No wonder the name looked so familiar to Grace. Grace only remembered when Grace saw her in person. She was the girlfriend who caused my brother's death. The doctors and nurses were startled by their sudden intrusion. Arthur didn't even glance at Grace or Chloe. His gaze was fixed on the needle in the doctor's hand. "Stop. Doctor, this vaccine, give it to me," he said forcefully. "Quick, give it to my son first. Hurry, give it to me." He reached out to snatch the needle. "Arthur, are you crazy?" Grace drew herself forward with all her might, blocking Chloe's bed, fiercely knocking away his outstretched hand. It's to save her life. She's your daughter." Slap. A resounding slap landed hard on Grace's face. "Get lost. What do you know? Leo is younger than Chloe. What's wrong with an older sister letting her brother have it?" Grace looked at the little boy. His energy was far better than Chloe's, who was almost unconscious. Arthur's eyes were bloodshot, his gaze fixed on Grace as if Grace were his child. "Skiller, doctor, give me the medicine quick." He no longer looked at Grace, snarling at the doctor. "Sir, calm down." The doctor's voice trembled uncontrollably. "I've examined the little boy's symptoms. They are indeed not as critical as this little girl's. Her heart rate and breathing are rapid. She's the one who truly needs immediate medication. There's another hospital 20 kilometers away, a private high-end hospital." The doctor spoke quickly, trying to calm Arthur with a more realistic alternative. "Their equipment is better. If it's urgent, taking him there now, and I'll contact them to prepare immediately, would be wiser than wasting time here. Your son's condition is far from critical enough to snatch this vaccine." Arthur didn't listen to a word. He suddenly reached out again, grabbing directile Y at the doctor's arm. Holding the syringe, he violently smashed the syringe onto the ground. "If my son can't use it, then no one can." Clang. The syringe shattered. The nurses froze in place, still holding the alcohol swabs, their wide eyes filled with horror. Deep. The monitor flatlined. "Chloe, quick, oxygen mask, cardiac stimulant, epinephrine. Ready? Hurry." Arthur, held down tightly by the security guards, was still gasping for breath, murmuring softly, "Gone, all gone." But when the ear-piercing monitor alarm sounded, when he saw the rescue scene at Chloe's bedside, his eyes showed a blankness and hollowness that even he hadn't noticed. "Cough," an extremely faint choking sound, accompanied by the heart rate monitor resuming. She has a heartbeat, maintain it, keep oxygenation. The doctor's urgent voices mixed with immense pressure. Chloe was finally pulled back from the brink of death, temporarily regaining a breath, but she still hadn't woken up just then. A young nurse finally erupted. She yelled at Arthur, who was being held down by the security guards. It's all you. You lunatic, you almost killed your daughter. Arthur seemed to be momentarily jolted by the young nurse's voice. He looked at Chloe's lifeless face. His lips moved a few times as if he wanted to say something, but it ultimately turned into an enraged roar. All incompetent, even if she doesn't make it, it's her bad luck. What does it have to do with me? Let go of me. My son is also sick. I need to take him to a private hospital. He can't be harmed. He turned his gaze towards Scarlett and Leo. Let's go. Scarlett, we're leaving immediately. I'll take Leo to the best hospital right now. The ward door slammed shut behind them. The rescue continued behind the isolation curtain. The hospital urgently transferred a vaccine from another hospital and Chloe was finally saved from the gates of hell. Grace looked at Chloe's pale face and immediately called Grace's assistant speed up the immigration procedures as fast as possible during 1 week hospitalization. Arthur didn't make a single phone call when took Chloe home. Grace had just entered the door. Arthur handed over a set of BMW keys. Your gift. He then pointed to the Steinway grand piano in the living room. Chloe's gift. Grace couldn't understand his intentions now. Was it flattery, remorse, or guilt towards Grace and Chloe? Grace responded coldly and was about to go upstairs when he reached out and grabbed Grace's hand. Don't be angry, but you also know Eleanor raised me alone, and it wasn't easy. Her only wish was to have a grandson 2 years ago. She wanted a grandson so badly she almost got depression, which is why I found Scarlett. Grace shook off his hand. He stumbled from Grace's push, a hint of awkwardness flashing across his face, but he stubbornly continued, I know I went too far this time, but I had no choice. I bought you and Chloe such expensive gifts because I wanted to make it up to you in the future. I will try to balance both sides and won't let you suffer any more. Grace spoke indifferently, whatever. Seeing him still following Grace looked at him questioningly. Wife Scarlett is pregnant again, so I want to bring them over. Seeing so calm, Arthur seemed somewhat surprised. He stepped closer, trying to observe Grace's expression, hoping to find a trace of anger or sadness on Grace's face. You don't have anything to say? He asked incredulously, seemingly unable to accept Grace's indifferent reaction. Grace looked at him, her eyes filled with exhaustion. What should I say? Congratulations on becoming a father again. Arthur was choked by Grace's words. He opened his mouth but didn't know how to respond. As soon as Grace returned to the room, Chloe asked Grace, Mom, are you and Dad getting a divorce? Grace squatted down, trying to force a smile. Grace gently patted her back, comforting her. Honey, don't be. Even if Dad isn't around in the future, Mom will give you all my love. Grace and Chloe are about to move to a new place. You can spend more time with your dad these next few days. After comforting Chloe, Grace took the divorce papers and handed them to Arthur. He was busy on a video call with Scarlett and didn't even notice what Grace was handing him before he signed it. Grace quickly took the divorce papers to the law firm, handing them to the lawyer to handle the subsequent procedures. When returned home, Grace heard Chloe crying and rushed in. Grace saw Scarlett's son pulling Chloe's hair, treating her like a horse. Grace pulled him away, shielding Chloe tightly behind Grace. Chloe's face was streaked with tears, her eyes full of fear and grievance. The little boy was startled by Grace's sudden action. After a few seconds, he began to cry loudly. You hurt me. I'm going to tell my mom. Just then, Scarlett slowly walked out from a corner of the living room, her face bearing an indifferent expression. Grace, why are you getting so worked up? Your temper is indeed just as it used to be. The children are just playing around. Don't make such a fuss. Playing around. Grace trembled with anger. Look how Chloe has been bullied. At that moment, Arthur also walked in quickly from outside. Seeing the chaotic scene, his face darkened. Chloe, didn't I tell you you're older than your brother? You should give in to him. Apologize to your brother. Chloe listened to Arthur's words and said with acrid in her voice, Dad, I wasn't refusing to give in to my brother. He pulled my hair and it hurt so much. Chloe raised her tear-stained little face, her eyes full of disappointment and grievance towards Arthur. Arthur looked at Chloe's pitiful appearance, and for a moment, his heart seemed to waver. But Scarlett immediately leaned closer, holding the little boy and coaxing him with a heartbroken expression. Honey, don't cry. Mom is here. It's all this Grace's fault. She heard our Leo. After speaking, she gave Grace a provocative look. Arthur frowned and said to Grace, Grace, look at you. What have you taught the child? Leo is young and doesn't know better. Chloe, as an older sister, can't you be more understanding? Grace didn't want to waste any more words with him and pulled Chloe out the door. Drive her to the airport. Chloe was sobbing in Grace's arms, Her small body trembling slightly, she said with a cry in her voice, "Mom, I don't want Dad anymore. He only likes my brother and doesn't like me," Grace replied. "It's okay, I don't want him anymore. Mom will get you a dad who treats you well." Just then, the lawyer's phone call came in. "Miss Grace, your immigration procedures have been handled, but there's a problem with the divorce papers." Grace's heart tightened and Grace quickly asked, "What's the problem?" "Lawyer, please explain in detail." The lawyer's voice on the other end of the phone call was filled with helplessness. "Miss Grace, the county's office said that you and Mr. Arthur were already divorced half a year ago, and he just got married to someone else last month." Hearing this, Grace almost dropped Grace's phone. Grace remembered half a year ago, when he suddenly said he wanted to design our unique signature style and asked Grace to sign a blank paper. Grace sent a message to Arthur, "Happy new marriage." The plane slowly took off. Grace's phone kept ringing. It was Arthur calling. Grace hung up immediately soon after. He sent a flurry of messages. "The weather forecast predicts a heavy storm today. Stop fooling around. Come back with Chloe now. Where are you? I'm coming to pick you up now. I can explain this. Just come back first." Grace didn't reply to him and blocked all his contact information. Soon it was 10 at night. Seeing that Grace hadn't brought Chloe back, Arthur forcefully suppressed his inner unease. He went to the home office, took out his phone and saw Grace's belated raptly. Still not giving up, he dialed Grace's phone call again, but the receiver only played the message, "The subscriber you dialed is currently unavailable." He threw his phone aside in frustration, pacing back and forth in the home office, recalling everything that had happened that day. He felt even more uneasy. He tried to reassure himself, thinking that Grace was just angry for a while and would return with Chloe soon. After all, for so many years, Grace had silently endured his actions and had never truly left, but this Tamia voice in his heart kept reminding him that things seemed different. He remembered Grace's resolute gaze that day, a coldness and determination he had never seen before, and tear-stained face full of grievance and disappointment also stung his heart. The night deepened, yet Arthur had no sleepiness. After some time, he stood up, deciding to go out and look for Grace and Chloe. "Arthur, where are you going?" Scarlett appeared at the home office door at some point. She was wearing lightweight pajamas, her eyes showing a hint of confusion and unease. Arthur glanced at her irritably, saying curtly, "I have something to do outside. Don't interfere." Scarlett frowned slightly, a flicker of displeasure on her face, but she still feigned gentleness and said, "It's so late and it's not safe outside. Let's talk about it tomorrow. See, Leo needs his dad too." Arthur felt agitated and roared at Scarlett, Leo, all you know is Leo. He needs a dad, doesn't Chloe? If it weren't for you and him, how would Grace and Chloe have left?" Scarlett was startled by his sudden outburst of anger, a hint of grievance in her. "What did I do wrong? I give you a son and I've been devoted to you all these years. What have I done to displease you? It's Grace herself who was narrow-minded and can't tolerate us." Arthur was in no mood to argue with her at this point. He shoved Scarlett away and walked straight towards the door. Scarlett stomped her foot in anger behind him, muttering through gritted teeth, "Arthur, you'll regret this." He went to the park and the mall where Grace and Chloe often visited, but he couldn't find any trace of Grace and Chloe. Meanwhile, Grace and Chloe had settled down at Grace's parents' place. Arthur, after searching all night in the rain, returned home exhausted. Pushing open the door, he saw Scarlett sitting on the sofa looking at him with a triumphant expression. He was physically and mentally drained at this point, and didn't bother to acknowledge Scarlett. Walking straight to the home office. Seeing this, Scarlett got up and followed him. "Arthur, don't look anymore. They won't come back. Grace is a heartless woman. She just left you. Unlike me, I will always be with you." As spoke, she reached out to Paul. Arthur disgustedly shook off her hand. "Shut up. If hadn't threatened to die, do you think I would be with you?" Scarlett's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. "Arthur, don't be ungrateful. Without me, could you have a son? Without me, Eleanor would have committed suicide long ago. Do you think Grace will forgive you?" "Don't dream." Arthur was choked by Scarlett's words. Anger and regret intertwined in his heart, yet he couldn't refute. After a long deliberation, Arthur bought a plane ticket to the States. He knew Grace's parents were in the States, but he had never accompanied Grace back before. He harbored a sliver of hope, thinking that if he could explain everything to Grace in person, there might still be a chance to salvage things on the plane. He rehearsed the first words he would say to Grace again and again after getting off the plane. He inquired and searched everywhere in the unfamiliar city following the Vega dress Grace had mentioned to him before. However, the city was too vast, making it incredibly difficult to find Grace and Chloe. He searched continuously for a year, but he still had no news of Grace and Chloe. Just as he was about to despair, he accidentally saw a familiar figure at the entrance of a mall. Chloe had grown taller and was holding a stranger's hand, A happy smile on her face, the man gently lowered his head and said something to Chloe, and Chloe responded with a joyful laugh. Arthur tried to approach, but Chloe immediately hid behind the man, clutching his coattail tightly. The man noticed Chloe's unusual behavior, looked in her direction and saw Arthur. He frowned, shielded Chloe behind him and looked at Arthur warily. Arthur's lips trembled as he spoke with difficulty. Chloe, I'm your dad. Chloe just behind the man and whispered, Caleb, I only have one dad. Yoha's not my dad. Hearing call another man, Dad. Arthur's heart felt as if thousands of needles were piercing it simultaneously, making him almost unable to stand steady. A look of pain and confusion flashed in his eyes. He instinctively looked at the man, his voice tinged with a plea. I am truly Chloe's biological father. I just want to talk to her. Arthur. Grace saw Caleb and Chloe talking to a man. The man's back seemed somewhat familiar. Caleb heard Grace's voice, turned to look at Grace, his eyes full of tenderness, and waved for Grace to come over. Arthur also turned his head following Caleb's gaze. The moment Grace and his eyes met, shock flashed in his eyes. So you're Grace's ex-husband? Arthur, let me introduce myself. I'm Caleb, Grace's first love, and I will be her last. Caleb, then I know you're the murderer who caused my brother's death. Hearing his words, Caleb's hand trembled slightly. Grace quickly grasped his hand. Arthur, I was young then and I blamed Caleb for everything. He merely introduced Scarlett and my brother. It was Scarlett who caused my brother's death. Arthur looked at Grace in shock. Scarlett, you knew each other before? 10 years ago, my brother met Scarlett through Caleb's introduction and fell in love, but neither of them knew that Scarlett had a mafia ex-boyfriend in the dates, and she owed her ex-boyfriend a lot of money. When she discovered she was being followed, she asked my brother to escort her home. On the way home, her ex-boyfriend suddenly pulled out a knife and chased them. Scarlett rushed inside the door first and locked my brother outside. Arthur looked disbelieving, saying Scarlett's ex-boyfriend was mafia back then? She locked your brother outside, which led to Grace gritted Grace's teeth, her eyes full of hatred. Yes, my brother was stabbed 28 times by her ex-boyfriend just like that. She was inside the door listening, and even the police were called by the neighbor across the street. By the time my brother was sent to the hospital, it was too late. I was devastated then. I felt that if Caleb hadn't introduced my brother to Scarlett, my brother wouldn't have died. After a big fight with Caleb, I lost contact and returned to his home country. Arthur's face was pale. I really didn't know any of this. You never told me that you knew Scarlett. Grace snorted coldly. Even if I had told you, you wouldn't have believed me. All right, Grace and I have other plans shortly. You should leave quickly. Arthur, however, was still unwilling to give up. He took a step forward, his eyes filled with pain and struggle. Grace, I know I made too many mistakes before, but I truly want to make amends. I was with Scarlett because Eleanor forced me. You also know she has depression. Grace looked at Arthur as if he were an idiot. Depression? Eleanor doesn't have depression at all. Grace pulled out a report from Grace's phone and waved it in front of Arthur. This is what I had someone invest. Eleanor doesn't have depression at all. Her so-called illness all this time was just a trick to force you into submission. For all these years you've been led by the nose by her, yet she never truly considered Grace and Chloe's feelings. Arthur's eyes widened, his face filled with disbelief. Impossible. Age out. Could Eleanor lie to me? Why would she do that? Why isn't it all for the so-called continuation of the family line? For someone to inherit your family business? She doesn't care about Grace and Chloe's lives nor Grace's feelings, and you just like her lost yourself under her influence. Grace said coldly, the disgusting Grace's heart surging like a tide. Caleb pulled Grace and Chloe closer, his eyes filled with heartache and protectiveness. Arthur, as things stand, you have no relationship with Chloe and Grace anymore. Chloe had behind Caleb, whispering, Caleb, let's go. I don't want to see him. Caleb gently stroked Chloe's head. Okay, Chloe. After said that, Grace and Chloe were about to leave, and the man completely panicked. Seeing this, Arthur suddenly rushed over, falling to his knees with a thud, begging tearfully, Grace, Chloe, I know I made a mistake. I was possessed and I wronged you. Please give me another chance. I promise I will change, and I guarantee I will treat you well and compensate you properly from now on. Chloe trembled, startled by his sudden action, hugging Caleb's leg tightly, her eyes filled with fear. Caleb held Chloe tighter, looking at Arthur with disgust. Get up, don't make a scene here. Do you think you can fix everything by acting like this? Now it's too late. Grace forced Grace's complex emotions back, turning Grace's head away from Arthur, and said coldly, Arthur, it's too late. Instead of lingering here, you should go back and check if your son is really yours. That mafia had curly hair. Your son's hair? You, what did you say, Leo? Arthur's voice trembled, full of disbelief. Grace scoffed, the disgusting Grace's heart growing stronger. What? You still don't believe me? Now forget it. Good advice can't convince someone bent on self-destruction. Arthur's face turned extremely ugly, alternating between green and pale. His lips trembled, but he couldn't speak for a long time. After a long while, he seemed to find his voice again, muttering, But we did a paternity test. A paternity test with money? What can't be fate?" Grace glanced at him disdainfully. "For so many years you've been kept in the dark, played like a puppet by her, foolishly giving her everything, even at the cost of hurting Grace and Chloe." Arthur seemed to have all the strength drained from him, slowly slumping to the ground, his eyes vacant, muttering continuously, "How could this happen? How could this happen?" Caleb held Grace and Chloe tightly, looking at Arthur warily, afraid he might do something drastic. "Arthur, it's time you came to your senses. Stop harassing Grace and Chloe. You've already caused them enough harm." Chloe, in Caleb's arms, still had a face full of fear. She whispered, "Caleb, I'm scared." Caleb gently comforted her. "Don't be afraid, Chloe. Caleb is here. No one will harm you." Grace looked at the dejected Arthur on the ground, feeling no pity, only endless exhaustion and annoyance. "Arthur, Grace and I are long over. You should go back and properly investigate what you've done all these years. Don't disturb Grace and Chloe's lives again, or I won't let you off easily with that." Grace took Caleb and Chloe and turned to leave. Arthur didn't try to stop them again. He just sat on the ground blankly staring at the direction Grace and Chloe left. After returning home, Chloe's mood was still somewhat unstable. Caleb stayed with her, playing games and telling stories, and it was with great difficulty that a smile finally reappeared on her face. Grace sat to the side watching the father and daughter interact, Grace's heart filled with myriad emotions. Once Grace also hoped that Arthur could love Chloe truly like Caleb, but in the end, Grace had misplaced her trust on the other side. Arthur returned to his home country in a daze. He seemed like a changed man, no longer the spirited entrepreneur, but like a walking corpse. He began to frantically investigate matters concerning Scarlett and Leo, utilizing every connection and resource he had. After a difficult investigation, all evidence pointed to a cruel truth. Leo was indeed not his biological son. Scarlett had been in contact with her mafia ex-boyfriend before she was with him, and Leo was their child. The so-called paternity test was merely a meticulously forged deception by Scarlett, designed to firmly grasp Arthur and acquire his wealth. Upon learning the truth, Arthur was overwhelmed by a mix of anger, regret, and pain. He returned home and looked at Scarlett, who was teasing Leo in the living room, his eyes filled with hatred. "Scarlett, you swindler!" Arthur roared and rushed over, pushing Scarlett to the ground. Scarlett was startled by the sudden turn of events, looking at Arthur in terror. "Arthur, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy?" Arthur pointed at her, trembling with rage. "How dare you ask me what's wrong? What you've done? Leo isn't my son at all. Been lying to me all these years. I've given you everything, and this is how you repay me." Scarlett's face instantly turned ashen. After a moment, she suddenly scoffed, "Since you already know, then what? I've already spent most of the money you gave me all these years. What can you do to me?" Arthur looked at the strange and vile woman before him, a wave of sorrow washing over him. "You're absolutely beyond reason. I'll make you pay for what you've done." Scarlett, however, was unfazed. "Pay? What can you do to me? If you dare do anything to me, my boyfriend won't let you get away." By then, Arthur was completely blinded by rage. He completely abandoned reason. "I'll fight you." Saying this, he lunged at Scarlett. Again in the chaos, Leo cried uncontrollably, and the entire home instantly plunged into chaos and despair. Scarlett was accidentally strangled to death by Arthur, and Arthur was imprisoned for the crime. Eleanor truly took her own life, and all of this was the bitter fruit of Arthur's past folly and foolishness. Now he alone had to bear this endless pain and torment. Caleb and Grace started a new and peaceful life with Chloe. Caleb treated Chloe as his own. His gentleness and patience gradually helped Chloe emerge from the shadows of the past. So thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section, and we welcome your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. See you next.